Imagine joining a self-help group hoping to change your life, only to find yourself trapped in a secret cult built on sex trafficking, blackmail, and mind control. Sounds unreal, right? But this actually happened. This is the true story of NXIVM. And trust me, the deeper you look, the darker it gets. Year 1998. Meet Keith Raniere, a man who on the surface seemed like a genius, or at least that's exactly what he wanted you to think. But here's a red flag. Before NXIVM, Keith ran a business called Consumers Byline. And guess what? It got shut down as a pyramid scheme. Yeah, not exactly the kind of resume you want for a self-help guru. Then in '98, Keith teamed up with Nancy Salzman, a former psychiatric nurse turned motivational speaker. Together, they launched NXIVM in Albany, New York. They pitched it as this amazing personal growth company, executive success programs, where you could unlock your full potential and transform your life. Sounds pretty inspiring, right? But here's where it starts to get weird. Keith wasn't the CEO. Nope, he took the title Vanguard. And Nancy? She was the prefect. I mean, who uses titles like that? It's like some secret society. And members didn't just attend classes. They were organized into strict ranks, like some kind of twisted hierarchy. So, was this really just about self-improvement? Or something much darker? Hold on, because it gets deeper. So, picture this. You join a course promising personal growth, but it costs thousands of dollars. Sounds steep, right? Well, they told members they could actually earn money by recruiting others. Yup. It worked like a multi-level marketing scheme, on steroids. But here's the crazy part. They didn't just recruit anyone. Celebrities, politicians' kids, even the Seagram heiresses, Claire and Sarah Bronfman, got involved. These two dropped over $100 million into NXIVM. Imagine the kind of influence that money buys with all that cash. NXIVM spread beyond New York, popping up in Mexico, Canada, and the UK. They were growing, fast. But here's where things get disturbing. Behind the shiny marketing and the motivational talks, I found something chilling. A system designed to control, manipulate, and trap people. It wasn't just self-help anymore. Want to know how deep the control went? Wait a minute. Before I spill that, we need to understand how NXIVM kept people hooked. So inside NXIVM, things weren't just about seminars and self-improvement. Everything was about control. Like seriously, members wore colored sashes to show their rank. Think Hogwarts, but way more twisted. You weren't just attending classes. You were constantly being watched and evaluated. Loyalty wasn't a choice. It was mandatory. And if you dared to question or speak out, suddenly, you were the enemy. What really shocked me was how psychological manipulation was baked into every part of their system. They used confessionals, where members had to spill their deepest secrets, public shaming to break down anyone who doubted them, and even cutting ties with family and friends. It wasn't about helping people grow. It was about breaking them down and rebuilding them in Keith Raniere's image. But wait, because in the next few minutes, we uncover something that's almost unbelievable. In 2015, Keith Raniere secretly created a subgroup inside NXIVM called DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which roughly means Master over Slave Women. Sounds terrifying, right? And it was. Women were recruited with promises of empowerment. But here's the catch. Before they could join, they had to give collateral. That means nude photos, financial secrets, personal confessions, basically things that could be used to control them forever. And then, the ultimate control. They were branded with a hot, cauterizing pen, literally burned with a symbol that looked innocent, but actually hid Raniere's initials. Imagine that. The symbol was a secret signature, a mark of ownership. It's hard to believe this happened in the 21st century, but it did. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. This branding was part of a strict hierarchy and control system inside DOS. Crazy, right? But it gets even worse. So, how does a powerful cult like NXIVM finally fall apart? It didn't happen overnight. It started with whispers. And then finally, someone spoke up. In 2017, a few ex-members, real insiders, came forward with stories that were beyond disturbing. And when the New York Times published their exposé, it was like a bomb dropped. Branded flesh, collateral blackmail, secret sex rituals, all of it out in the open. While I was reading it, I was shocked. How could something this dark stay hidden for so long? But when I looked deeper, it all clicked. Fear. They used fear as a weapon. No one felt safe enough to speak. But once that door opened, it wouldn't close again. The FBI jumped in. Fast. They weren't just dealing with a fake guru. They were investigating sex trafficking, identity theft, and racketeering. This was big. And Raniere? He did what every guilty cult leader seems to do. Ran. He hid out in Mexico, holed up in a luxury villa, surrounded by a few blindly loyal followers. But guess what? In March 2018, they found him. He was arrested and dragged out by authorities. Barefoot, by the way. And flown back to the US. The so-called vanguard was finally cornered. And just wait. You won't believe how many years he got behind bars. Okay, so here's the part that had me literally frozen for a second. In 2019, Keith Raniere went to trial, and this wasn't some drawn-out courtroom drama. The evidence was overwhelming. Victims testified. Videos were shown. Texts, emails, branding tools. Everything came out. And the charges? Sex trafficking, racketeering, forced labor, identity theft, child exploitation. I mean, the list felt endless. When the verdict dropped, guilty on all counts. But the part that really hit me? His sentence. 120 years in federal prison? Basically, a life sentence times 6. And he wasn't the only one who paid the price. Nancy Salzman, the prefect, got 3.5 years. Claire Bronfman, the heiress who funded so much of this, nearly 7 years. And yes, Allison Mack, the actress from Smallville, she got 3 years. While I was reading all this, I kept thinking, how many lives were ruined before this all came crashing down? But here's what really gave me chills. Even with all this, some people still believe Raniere is innocent. And that takes us to what happened next. And honestly, it's just as wild. Now you'd think, after all that, the trial, the convictions, the branding horror, that NXIVM would just vanish forever, right? But nope, it didn't die quietly. Here's the twist that truly blew my mind. Even after Raniere was sentenced to 120 years, there were still people, real people, who believed he was innocent. They called themselves the NXIVM5. And get this, they were outside the prison, literally dancing, like full-on group choreography to show their loyalty. It felt like something out of a psychological thriller. But while that was happening, something way more powerful was rising. Survivors began speaking out, louder, stronger, braver than ever. People like Sarah Edmondson, who was actually branded and escaped DOS. She went public. And she didn't just do interviews. She co-hosted a podcast, a little bit culty, to expose how manipulation works. Then there's India Oxenberg. Yes, daughter of royalty in Hollywood, who released a documentary and wrote a book. Her story? Absolutely gut-wrenching, but inspiring too. These women didn't just survive. They fought back. They turned their trauma into a spotlight, shining it on cult tactics, coercion, and how easy it is to fall into something that seems motivational. But wait, here's the question I kept asking myself. How did this happen? How did something that looked like self-improvement turn into a cult? And the truth is, it didn't start with branding or blackmail. It started with a promise of greatness, of being part of something elite, of finding purpose in a world where most people feel lost. That's the scariest part. NXIVM didn't recruit the weak. It attracted the smart, the ambitious, the curious, people just like you and me. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because if you were vulnerable, if someone told you, hey, I can unlock your true potential, wouldn't you be tempted? But here's the lesson. The moment someone asks for blind loyalty, unquestioning obedience, or damaging collateral, run. If a group makes you feel like the problem is always you and never them, run. Next IVM may be gone, but manipulative groups like it, they still exist. They just wear different masks now. Online coaches, spiritual retreats, influencer-led workshops. So always ask questions, always trust your gut, and never, ever trade your freedom for someone else's vision. If this story shocked you like it did me, hit that like button and drop a comment. Which part of the NXIVM saga stunned you the most? And if you want more deep dives like this, from cults to conspiracies, make sure to subscribe, because next time, we're going even deeper. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and never stop asking questions.